Hey up guys, it's Ricky here with another lesson. Today's lesson is all about not inverting intervals. The first thing you need to know is what the heck is an interval? Well, the way I see an interval is it's the distance between one event and another event. So if we had something happening there and something happening there, then the distance between those two things there. Now it could be distance, it could be time. In our case, in music, steps and half steps, but more importantly, using interval names or scale degree names. I've drawn this inversion table here. We're going to be using the chromatic scale. If you don't know what the chromatic scale is, then at the end of this video, there will be a click through for you to watch that video, and that tells you all about the chromatic scale and how we visualize it on the guitar neck. That's super important that you understand that. Why even learn how to invert intervals in the first place? Well, it's really important. It's going to make your life a lot easier further on down the line, and I'll show you two ways that that will happen. First things first, I need to show you the rules here. So rule one is if we have a major interval, like a major third, a major sixth, when we invert it, the tonality of that interval becomes minor. And this is what we have to understand here. So major becomes minor. This is my symbol that I use for vice versa. If we take a minor interval and we invert it, it's going to become major. That's the first rule that you need to understand there. Major becomes minor and minor becomes major. The next one is everything adds to 9. That'll become apparent as I start showing you how I am inverting these, and then you'll see there's a beautiful symmetry going on. Something wonderful about music and the way it does this. Rule 3 is perfect stays perfect. Rule number 4 is that sharp, that does a vice versa as well. We can think of that as becoming a flat. So those are the 4 rules. Now, as I go through each one of these, by the time we get halfway down, you're going to start to see the pattern, you're going to understand it, and you're going to see this symmetry and this beautiful thing that is going on. And as I go through this, you'll see that this is basically a vertical interval seesaw from that chromatic lesson I did the other week. Okay. This is a string, by the way, guys, and I've divided it into frets as well. So you can use your guitar string to help you to see this and visualize it. Now, the first note we're going to look at is a second. And if you remember from the interval seesaw lesson I did, there are 2 kinds of seconds. There is a major second, and then there is a minor second. So we have a major and a minor second. Another way to spell the minor second can also be flat second. If I want to invert this one here, minor becomes major. So I'll just fill that information in. Major. I know I'm going to have major something. Something's going to go here. Remember, everything adds to 9. So if we think about the number 9 and subtract the 2, we get 7. So if we invert a minor second, we get a major 7th. You can see that if we add the 2 and 7, we get the 9. We're always going to get this 9 here. Look at this one here, major second. If we do the same thing here, you might even already start to get the idea of what's going on here. Major becomes minor, so this becomes a minor. And I would say the inversion, if you want to see it as an inversion of the root note, would be the octave. The octave is sometimes called a perfect eighth, and that ties in with this perfect stays perfect because the note of resolution in a scale is the root note because that is the perfect end to the melody. So we can think of that as an inversion if you wanted to. So we can see that we've got the minor second and the major second there. The next notes we get are 2 thirds. The flat third, which is also known as the minor third, and then we get a major third. Because if you remember what I said, guys, minor and major, they're like Mr. and Mrs. They travel around in pairs like that. If we take this minor third, and you can see that what happens is 3. If this has got to equal 9, 3 from 9 gives us 6. So we know we're going to get a 6th of some variety. This is a 3 as well. We're going to get a 6th of some variety here as well because that equals 9. Also worth noticing, just coming back up here, can you see there's a pair there? Major and minor in a pair there. Like I say, Mr. and Mrs. Let's go back to this minor third, which we could also call a flat third there. Minor becomes major. Major becomes minor. So let's switcheroo here. Major 6th. Wonderful. Here we've got a major third. Major becomes minor. And you can see that 3 and 6 equals 9. So we've got that pairing thing happening up here with the majors and the minors. Everything adds to 9. And we can see the vice versa like that when we invert them. The next interval is not major or minor. The next interval is a perfect fourth. The rule is that perfect stays perfect. So if I do a little vice versa thing there, P equals perfect. So that's that rule taken into consideration. But look at the number. The number is 4. Everything has to equal 9, remember? So 4 from 9 equals 5. If we invert a perfect fourth, we will get a perfect fifth. Now, this is where it gets tricky. This is a sharp 4. We're going to call this a sharp 4. If we vice versa this, rule 4 kicks into action here. So sharp becomes a flat. Everything has to add to 9. So yet again, because it's a 4, from 9 we get a fifth. So we can equate a sharp 4 as being the same as a flat 5. They are inversions of each other. So you flip those around. That's really useful when it comes to picking things out in your scales. I kind of think of this as the midpoint now, and hopefully you will see a pattern starting to emerge here. The next interval is a perfect fifth. We've already encountered the perfect fifth when we inverted the perfect fourth. Can you see there? Well, it's going to give us the same answer at this other side, but let's just work through it. Just to clarify, perfect stays perfect. So this is a perfect interval. 5, what's missing from the 9 there? It's going to be 4. We end up with this perfect fifth becoming a perfect fourth. So this tipping point here, this symmetry that is going on here, has changed everything. Now, we're going up this chromatic scale here. So next is going to be a minor 6. Let's put the next one in. We get a major 6 because these intervals, they travel in pairs. We can see, look, there's a minor and a major pair there. So let's invert this. The rule is minor becomes major, so that's going to be major. Everything has to add to 9 again. So 6 and 3 equals 9. So we get a major third. And you might start to say, hang on, this is starting to go backwards up here. Let's do it again, just so that you understand it all the way through the chromatic scale. Major 6, major becomes minor. And then we have to make it equate to 9 there. So that's 6 and 3 equals 9. We get the emergence of this major and minor pair there. Next one here, we're going to get the minor 7. I should just put here, actually, I put that minor 6 there. That could be called a flat 6. This is another way of spelling it, just so you understand what these other synonyms for these intervals are. I talk about synonyms all the time. So just think of it, oh, well, a flat 6 is the same as a minor 6. Major 7 here. It must be starting to be obvious what's going on here. Let's have a look. Minor becomes major. We've got a 7. This has to equal to 9. So 7 from 9 leaves a second. And here we're going to get exactly the same thing. This is a major 7. Let's invert the major to a minor. Take that 7 and make sure it equals 9. So we're going to get a second here. We get this minor and major second pair here. After the major 7th, we get the octave. You can think of that as being the root. So if you think of the root as being 1 and the 8, then it equals 9 as well. I think this is just absolutely fantastic how this all works. But let me show you a use case of this. So how we're going to actually use this is, if we look at something like a bog standard cowboy chord, an E major chord, I'll put the intervals for this chord in. We've got the root, 5th, root, 3rd, 5th, and another root here. This is a useful trick for working out sixths. If we look at our little chart here, we can see that minor 6, if you invert it, you get a major 3rd. Major 6, if you invert it, you get a minor 3rd. So what we're going to do is, if we look at this root and this 3rd here, and we pull those out of that equation, we get a root and a 3rd there. That would be classed as a 10th or a compound 3rd. Now I have done a lesson on that. I'll put that in the end screen as well. So here we get a compound 3rd. Now what we can do is we take this 3rd that is on the G string. Just imagine that that would be a root note. So if that was a root note and we're looking at it for the interval value, then we can jump over, look at that root 3rd there to that root there. That's the distance we're going to go. When we invert it, we get a flat 6. This is showing you that here, this is going to be a 6th. So we get the 6th here. Now this can be really cool. If you want to think about adding 2 notes, and you want to shorthand a chord, you can play that there. And it's really odd when you think about it that all these chords that you play on guitar, for a major chord, there is going to be a minor 6th hiding somewhere in the chord. There will be that clash. And a minor 6th is a very dissonant sound. So if you want to get into this, I'd really recommend you watch the compound third video, and then there is a link at the end of that that shows you how to play sixths as well. So this is a really useful way to play that. I'll just show you with a minor as well, in fact. Here we have our minor chord. We've got the root there and we've got the flat third there. Now if we want to find a sixth that works with this shape, as you can see, we have a root to a flat third here, but by making this note the root, we're essentially inverting that interval. So the flat third becomes the root, and then we invert that over and we get this sixth interval here. So that is a major sixth. And it's nuts to think that if you look at that chord there, in between that note and that note, you are getting that major sixth sound in a minor chord. And that is a great way to look at it. And you can see that here we get two different shapes here on the G and the E strings. Now, another way to use this using theory is it's really hard to determine at first, sight reading, what kind of seventh it can be, especially if you've got lots of sharps and flats in the key signature. So here is a way that I learned off my professor at music college, and this was to invert the interval to see the smaller shape. And that's the whole gist of this. This is a C major triad there, and then we put this there. We know that we've got a root, third, fifth, and seventh, but we don't really know what kind of seventh it is unless you know all this stuff from the get-go. So this is a great little hack for beginners. So instead of looking at it from this perspective here and counting up, because this is what you do generally when you're starting out, you think to yourself C, E, G, B, and then you start getting lost trying to figure out what this bigger distance is here. So what we do is we shrink that distance. So we take the C major, we put that 7 that is there, and we work out what the small distance is by just chucking this root note of the chord up there. And then we work backwards. We think, well, that's a B and that's a C. B to C is a minor second. Okay, let's look at our rules for inverting things. A minor second inverted becomes a major, and it has to add to 9, so we're going to get a seventh there. This is a nice easy way to get your head around what kind of seventh it is. Like I say, if there's lots of sharps and flats going on in there, then it's going to be tricky. And it might not even be on that chord, it could be on any of the other chords. When you extend them up into sevenths, this is a really cool and easy way for you to be able to see what's going on there. Click these videos here because there's more stuff about this interval malarkey. It's really good for you. If you want this as a free PDF, then click the link in the description below.